Welcome everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss electrical insulators in detail and few gate model questions on insulators.
So an insulator is a material that does not easily allow the flow of electric current through it. So materials typically used for insulation are rubber, plastic, glass, PVC, impregnated paper, okay, etc. Many insulators are there which offer very high impedance for the flow of current. They classify as insulators. Okay. Next, where do we use insulators in our power system? Our overhead transmission lines are bare conductors. They do not have any covering. If you see our ACSR conductors, they are bare conductors where air is acting as a insulation. But however, when these transmission lines are housed at a tower, at the supporting structures like towers, they require insulators between the metallic structure and the conductor. Because they are at very high voltage, we have to provide insulation between the transmission conductor and the supporting structures. That is the main role of the insulators. Even in substations where we receive the high voltage transmission lines, or from where we send the high voltage transmission lines, to provide insulation with respect to ground or with respect to the bodies which are at ground potential, you must connect the insulators. Understand? If you go to the substation, any substation, most of the locations you'll be able to see the porcelain insulators, because insulation is very integral part of our power systems. Okay. So where the insulators are mounted on the cross arms, we will see what are cross arms, and overhead line conductors are attached to these insulators. Okay. So this is about the insulators. Insulators are mounted on the cross arms and the conductors are connected to these insulators, So what are the desirable properties of any insulating material? It may not be not only overhead, even the insulation that is used for underground cable also should have the following desirable properties. Okay. It should have very high mechanical strength. It should have high mechanical strength, high relative permittivity. Relative permittivity means epsilon r. It should have high epsilon r value. Next, high dielectric strength. High dielectric strength. Dielectric strength high means high breakdown voltage. High breakdown voltage. High insulation resistance, and they should be non-porous. That means there should not be any voids, so that any of the fluids or gases or any dust particles enter into this insulator. Thermal stability, that means as temperature increases, the resistance or any other properties of the insulator should not get deviated. That means they should have the ability to withstand large temperature fluctuations. Okay. Next, non-hygroscopic. That means they should not absorb moisture or gases that are present in the atmosphere. Non-hygroscopic, should be impervious to the fluids and gases in the atmosphere. Okay. So these are the desirable properties of insulators that we use in overhead lines, and even the insulation that we provide in the underground cables. What are the properties? High mechanical strength, high relative permittivity. So when the relative permittivity is high, the capacitance will be high. Okay. Next, high dielectric strength, high insulation resistance, non-porous, high thermal stability, non-hygroscopic. Non-hygroscopic, that means they should be impervious to the fluids and gases present in the atmosphere. Okay. The materials that are most commonly used as overhead transmission line insulators are porcelain and toughened glass. So again, the choice boils down to porcelain and glass. So porcelain, this is a porcelain insulator you might have seen. The dielectric strength of porcelain is 60 kV per centimeter RMS value. That means, what do you understand by dielectric strength? So if you provide 1 centimeter gap and you keep a porcelain piece between these 2 points and you apply a AC voltage which can be altered. Suppose you keep on increasing this voltage at a particular voltage of, when you apply 60 kV voltage, then flashover will occur between these 2 conductors. Flashover will occur between these 2 points. That means these 2 points are separated by 1 centimeter. In that 1 centimeter, you have kept a porcelain block, and with a variac, you have increased the voltage at around 60 kV. What will happen? A puncture or a flashover, a puncture will, the direct short circuit will occur between these 2 points. That is called dielectric strength or breakdown voltage of any material. Understand? So porcelain has an dielectric strength of 60 kV per centimeter. So porcelain is a aluminum silicate. Aluminum silicate is mixed with plastic, kaolin, feldspar and quartz to obtain hard and glazed porcelain insulator. Hard and glazed porcelain insulator. That means porcelain is an aluminum silicate. It is mixed with kaolin, feldspar and quartz to obtain the glazed porcelain insulator. That is about porcelain. Now, this is a toughened glass insulator. Annealed toughened glass is used for making electrical insulators. Dielectric strength is 140 kV per centimeter. In all properties, that means in resistivity, in tensile strength, thermal stability, in all ways porcelain is, glass insulator, toughened glass insulator is better than porcelain. Okay, and it is cheaper than porcelain. It is having many advantages, but still in one aspect it will fail. Glass absorbs moisture. Glass absorbs moisture. That means, for example, you are driving a car. If you are driving a car, if you have closed all the doors of your car, but still when it is heavily raining outside, you can see the layer of moisture inside your vehicle glass, okay, which will obstruct your vision. So every time what you have to do, you will either heat the cabin or with a cloth you will clear the screen so that the road is visible to you. Because of this one property, we don't prefer glass in outdoor applications because glass can absorb moisture. Okay, that is the reason why moisture can easily condense on glass surface, and hence air dust will be deposited on the weld glass surface, which will provide path to the leakage currents to the system. Okay, the second disadvantage of glass is fabricating glass insulators for high voltages is difficult. Okay, so glass absorbs moisture and fabricating the glass insulators for high voltages is difficult. Because of these 2 reasons, for outdoor applications, the porcelain becomes the unanimous choice for making insulators. Okay. Next, types of insulators. The first type of insulator is called pin type insulator. Pin type insulators. So you can see here how the conductor is attached to the pin type insulator. There is a groove here. In this groove, the conductor is placed, and again, binding conductors are also attached. Okay. So pin type insulators are used up to voltages of 33 kV only. They are used up to voltages of 33 kV. Okay. there is a groove on the upper end of the pin insulator for housing the conductor. This is that groove. This is the groove where we house the conductor. Okay. Construction cost and size of insulator increases abnormally for voltages beyond 50 kV. For voltages beyond 50 kV, constructing a single pin insulator is difficult, and even the cost will exponentially increases. That means cost of one insulator becomes V to the power of x, where x value is greater than 2 for voltages above 50 kV. For voltages above 50 kV, that means the construction cost and size becomes abnormally high for higher voltages. So that's why pin insulators are restricted up to 33 kV only. So this is a line where you can see how the pin insulators are connected. Okay, this line can be 33 kV feeder. It is a 33 kV feeder or 11 kV feeder. The next type of insulators are called suspension type insulators. Suspension type insulators. They are connected to the cross arm. This is called cross arm of the tower. Cross arm. So they are connected to the cross arm of the transmission tower. See, this is the suspension insulator. It is called string. It is called string, and at the bottom it is connected to a conductor. At the bottom it is connected to a conductor. You can see here it is not a single conductor, it is a bundled conductor with a bundling of two. It is a bundled conductor with a bundling of two subconductors. Okay, so this is a structural diagram where you can observe. This is the cross arm. This is the first disc connected to cross arm. This is a metallic link is present. A metallic link is present between one disc to the other disc. Okay, these are the metallic links. These are the metallic links. Okay, this is the line conductor, and this is the last unit that is connected to the conductor. Okay, so these suspension type of insulators can be used from voltages 11 kV to 765 kV. They can be used for any voltages from 11 kV to 765 kV. Very easy to increase the insulation, that we can increase the insulation just by adding or removing the discs in series. That means if you increase the number of insulators in that string, you can increase the insulation. If you decrease the number of discs in that string, you can decrease the insulation. Okay. The disadvantage of this type of insulators is that since they are vertically hanged, they require more ground clearance. The transmission voltage, as the transmission voltage increases, the height and size of the tower increases to provide more ground clearance to the conductor. To provide more clearance to the conductor. Why? Because once we increase the voltage, the height of the string also increases. So we need to have bigger, taller towers, and which increases the cost and size of towers to provide more ground clearance to the conductor. Understood? So if the same insulator combination, instead of using them vertically, if you use them horizontally, that means here I am using this insulator string vertically. Instead of using vertically, if I use horizontally, it will become a strain insulator. It will become a strain insulators. Okay. So these are strain insulators. The only difference is that it is the same suspension type insulators, but it is horizontally connected. The transmission, it is horizontally connected. So it is nothing but the horizontal configuration of suspension type insulators. Where we use these strain insulators we use where we require more ground clearance, require more ground clearance. That is at the dead ends of the transmission line, at a place where there is a transmission line is taking a sharp turn. Suppose the transmission tower is like this, all three are there. Suddenly there is no way, we have to change the path of transmission line. Then this is a sharp turn here. From here to here there is a sharp turn. So when there is a sharp turn, dead end, we require more ground clearance. So we use the strain insulators. Since they absorb the strain of the conductor, they are called strain insulators. Okay. Why we are connecting two strain insulators in parallel? Two or more suspension strings can be assembled in parallel to sustain greater tensions. If the cable conductor weight is more, so to take the tension, we are connecting two or more suspension strings in parallel. Okay. Next, last type of the advantages of this suspension type insulators, whether they are used horizontally or vertically, they are having few advantages. Let someone read the advantages.
Each unit of disk is designed for a low voltage, say 11 kV. Hence, depending upon the working voltage, desired number of disks can be connected in series to form an insulating string.
So let us suppose that each disk can handle 11 kV. So we can easily increase or decrease we can easily provide insulation for the higher or lower voltages by adding the disks in series. Understand? By connecting the disks in series, we can increase the voltage or decrease the voltage of the insulator string. If any of the disks in the insulator string is damaged, it can be easily replaced. Replacement of the whole string is not required. Okay. In case of increase in demand of the line voltage can be increased by additional, and additional insulation required for the raised voltage can be easily provided by adding desired number of disks in series with the insulator strings. Okay. As the line conductors are suspended by suspension strings, they run below the earthed cross arm of the tower. This arrangement provides partial protection from lightning. Okay. So what he's telling in this point, what he's telling, so here if you observe this first image, where is your transmission conductor? Your transmission conductor is here. Okay, your cross arm is here. So this cross arm is connected to the tower and this tower is connected to the ground. So the voltage of cross arm, voltage of tower is 0. Okay, and your transmission conductor is far below this cross arm. So if at all lightning occurs, any lightning occurs during rainy season or during stormy weather, first this lightning impact is attracted by this iron before the conductor. So this arrangement partially protects the conductor from the lightning. Why? Because the zero potential point is present at a taller location than the conductor. So lightning, if at all it attacks this tower, directly it will attack the tower instead of the conductor. That is the point. The suspension arrangements provides greater flexibility to the line. suspension insulators are allowed to swing so that they can take up the position when mechanical stresses are, where mechanical stresses are minimum. So in the suspension type insulator, even when heavy winds hit them, they are flexible. They are flexible so that they'll have slight swing. If they are rigid structure, what will happen when once heavy winds or rains hit them, there is a chance that it can break at this point. It can break at this points. Okay, they are flexible. Whenever there is a heavy wind that blows them, they will slightly adjust their positions without getting damaged. So the next type of insulators is shackle or spool type insulators. Shackle or spool type insulators. They are the low voltage version of the strain insulators. They are the low voltage version of the strain insulators, mainly used in distributor lines. A shackle insulators can be used vertically as well as horizontally. It can be directly fixed to the pole with a bolt or the cross arm. The usage is decreasing after increasing use of underground cables for distribution purpose. Mainly, they are used for overhead distributions where you require more ground clearance. But nowadays, in most of the locations, we are using underground cables for distribution, so their usage is getting reduced. Okay, so these are the 4 types of insulators that we use in our transmission system. Next definition is flashover voltage. Flashover voltage. The voltage at which the dielectric strength of the air breaks and conduction happens between conductor and tower through the air itself. Through the air itself. If you to understand this one, suppose this is the a pin type insulator. So here the conductor is running. Okay. So in normal conditions, nothing will happen. Okay. Because of some transient or because of some fault, if the conductor voltage increases, suppose this is the conductor is connected to the tower through a pin, metallic pin. So this is tower. Okay. So if the flashover between conductor and the tower happens through air, because of some reason, that means either moist weather condition because of rain or because of the high voltage of the conductor, that means because of this the dielectric strength of air is breaking and the conduction is happening between the conductor and the tower through the air, then the particular voltage at which this phenomenon happens, the voltage of the conductor at which the flashover between the conductor and the tower happens through air, such a voltage is called flashover voltage. Such a voltage is called flashover voltage. Next one is called what? Puncture voltage. It is the voltage of the conductor at which the dielectric strength of insulator itself breaks and direct conduction happens between the conductor and the tower through the insulator itself. Okay, through the insulator itself, the conduction will happen, the current will flow. So obviously, which voltage will be greater? The puncture voltage is very much greater than the flashover voltage because the dielectric strength of the insulator is higher when compared to dielectric strength of the air. Air value is 21.2 kV per centimeter, whereas the dielectric strength of porcelain we have seen is 60 kV per centimeter. So puncture voltage is greater than the flashover voltage. So usually safety factor we keep, safety factor is the ratio of puncture voltage of the insulator divided by the flashover voltage. Puncture voltage of the insulator divided by the flashover voltage. Greater is the safety factor, better is the insulation. Better is the insulation. Okay. Any doubt in the definition of puncture and flashover voltage? Any doubt so
No,
far?
no doubt, sir.
So next there is one thumb rule which we normally adopt. So basically in olden days, many people used to ask a question. They'll show a transmission line and ask you, by counting the number of insulators connected, you should estimate the transmission voltage. Okay. So nowadays, even though it is not 100% valid because we have different types of discs, still, if they ask such questions, how to approach them? In suspension type insulator string, we can estimate the transmission voltage by knowing or by counting the number of discs in the insulator string. Okay, number of discs is given by voltage of the conductor with respect to cross arm or with respect to ground divided by voltage withstand capacity of the each disc. Voltage withstand capacity of the each disc. So how many discs you have to connect to provide the insulation, that is given by voltage of the conductor, voltage of the transmission conductor with respect to neutral or ground divided by voltage withstand capacity of each disc. Okay. For example, normally the porcelain discs, there is a thumb rule that it can withstand up to 11 kV RMS voltage. It can withstand up to 11 kV RMS voltage. Now you have to estimate the transmission voltage depending upon the number of discs connected. So for example, in a 66 kV transmission line, how many discs we have to connect? How many discs we have to connect? So how to solve this problem? The number of discs, let us call n. So what is the formula? Voltage of the conductor with respect to ground. So since 66 kV is the line to line voltage between two transmission conductor, the phase to neutral voltage is given by 66 by root 3. And what is the withstand capacity of each disc? 11 kV. So for additional safety, we'll keep one more disc extra. That is the normal practice. So this will be the number of discs that are connected in a 66 kV transmission. If we calculate this value, how much you are getting? We'll get 4 point something, right? Anyone tell me what is this value? N value?
4.46.
4.46 plus 1. So we cannot have 4.5.56. So we'll go to the next ceiling number. So it will become how much? 6. 6 number of discs are required for 66 kV line. Okay. Now tell me, for 132 kV line, how many discs are required?
12, sir.
No, ma'am, don't go. Again, see, again, I'm
Okay.
telling you. 132 is a line to line voltage by root 3 divided by 11 plus 1 for safety.
$7.988 discs.
You have to add this with plus 1 and tell the next highest number.
8.
8 discs, very good. So 8 discs for each conductor.
Option B, sir.
22.
22 to 23.
Very good. Option B is the right option.
So next we'll discuss the potential distribution across the string of insulators. So before going to that, you have to understand two capacitances. Okay, we have seen that if this is the cross arm, suppose these are the discs, and this is the conductor. We have told that the voltage of this tower body is 0 volt. So the voltage at this point is 0 volt, and there is a capacitance between, we already discussed that there is a metallic pin junction between one disc and other discs. So a capacitance is formed between this metallic pin junction and the tower body and the transmission tower body. Okay, a capacitance is formed. Let us call that capacitance as the CPT. CPT means capacitance between pin junction and tower body. So I am calling the term CPT. Now it is given by area of cross section of the pin junction into epsilon naught. Let us call this distance between the pin junction and tower as, say, D dash. So the capacitance is given by A epsilon naught divided by D, so many farad. Okay. Now each disc between this point to this point, each disc also I can model as a capacitor. So capacitance of each disc I can call it as CD, which is given by A epsilon naught epsilon R divided by D dash, where D dash is the distance between the two metallic pins. So this is the D dash distance between the two metallic pin junctions, and whereas D is okay. Let us call the previous distance as D and this distance as D dash. Okay, so D is the distance between the pin junction and the tower, whereas D dash is the distance between the two metallic pin junctions. Okay, sir, why you have not written epsilon R in the first capacitance, that is CPT? Because this, what is the medium between this pin junction and the tower? It is air. So relative permittivity of air is 1. So I did not write in the first capacitance the epsilon R value. But whereas if you are having a porcelain insulator, the epsilon R value is greater than 1. So when you are defining the capacitance of the disk, the numerator contains A epsilon naught and epsilon R, because epsilon R value is greater than 1 for any insulating material. Understand? So now I am defining a ratio called M. M is given by CD divided by CPT. Okay. Now if you compare the two capacitances, whose capacitance will be greater? Obviously CD capacitance will be greater than the CD capacitance will be greater. Why? Because here, even though the area of cross section in both the cases is same, here epsilon R value is greater than 1. It is a higher value. And when you compare these two distances, D dash value is very small when compared to the D. So D dash value, that is the distance between the two pin junctions, metallic pin junctions, is very small when compared to the distance between the metallic pin junction and the tower. So here the denominator value is very small and numerator value is very strong. So CD capacitance of each disc is very much greater than the CPT. Let us define this ratio as M. Usually M value will be greater than 1. M value will be greater than 1. Okay. So this is the basic that you have to understand. Now, if I model this configuration in the form of an electrical circuit, how it would become? It would become, so since the body is at the potential of earth, I'm writing it as ground. Even the cross arm is at the potential of the earth, so I'm designating them as ground. Then each disk I can model as a capacitor. Okay, and I'm calling this the capacitance of the disk is M times the capacitance of the pin junction, the capacitance between pin junction and tower. For our convenience to reduce number of variables, I am calling the capacitance between the, I am calling, let CPT is capital C, then CD will become how much? M times capital C. So I am defining my individual disk capacitance as MC and the capacitance between pin junction and tower as C. This is how we model. This is how we model the string of insulator while we are solving in. This is the electrical equivalent circuit. Electrical equivalent circuit of this physical system that we use for our analysis. Any doubt here? Any doubt in this discussion? Because this is important for further topics. Gentlemen, are you able to follow?
No doubt, sir.
Okay. Next. So let us consider a insulator string containing 3 disks. 3 or 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So let us consider a 4 disk insulator string. Okay. Now we are defining capital I1 is the current flowing through the disk 1 which is connected to cross arm. This is cross arm. This is tower body. And all these points are at ground potential. All these points are at ground potential. Okay. Now I1 is the current flowing through the disk that is connected to the cross arm. IC1 is the leakage, capacitive leakage current flowing from the first pin junction and the tower body. So likewise, we have how many disks? I1, I2, I3 and I4 are the currents flowing through the respective disks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, IC1, IC2 and IC3 are the capacitive leakage currents flowing from the metallic pin junction and the tower body. Okay. Now let us call this as node 1, node 2, likewise node 3, node 4. At node 1, if I apply the KCL by the Kirchhoff's current law, what I am going to get? What is the entering current? I2 is equals to I1 plus IC1. Am I right? I2 is equals to I1 plus IC1. Okay. Now, what is the I1? Let us define the voltage. Let us define the voltage across the first disk as small v1, voltage across second disk as small v2, voltage across third disk is small v3, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now current I1 is given by what? Current I1 is given by V1 divided by impedance of this disk. V1 divided by impedance of that disk. So what is the impedance of the disk? It is 1 by j omega mc. Impedance is given by 1 by j omega mc. Similarly, what is the voltage between this point? See, the voltage between the node 1 and cross arm is V1. Similarly, the voltage between node 1 and this point is also V1. Why? Because these 2 points are at same potential. These 2 points are at a same potential. So IC1 also will become V1 divided by, what is the impedance between the node 1 and this point, tower body? It is 1 by j omega c. J omega c. Now, what is the voltage across the disk? I2 is given by V2 divided by, what is the impedance of this disk? That is 1 by j omega mc. J omega mc. So if you simplify this, what you are going to get? J omega mc V2 is equals to j omega mc V1 plus j omega c into V1. Okay. Now, in every term I will cancel. If j omega mc, here I am multiplying and dividing with m. So this m also gets cancelled. So you are going to get V2 is equals to V1 plus V1 divided by m. You are going to get V2 is equals to V1 plus V1 divided by m. Understood? Any doubt so far?
No doubt, sir.
Okay. Now if I do the same exercise again at node 2, again I am calling this V1. This V2, similarly this one V3, voltage across third disk. Okay. So this potential is ground potential 0. By the Kirchhoff's current law at node 2. At node 2. So this is node 1. This is node 2. If you do this, what you are going to get? The sum of entering currents I3 is equals to I2 plus IC2. I3 is equals to, entering current is I3, leaving currents are I2 and IC2. Okay. So again, if you calculate this I3 is divided by V3 divided by the impedance. Impedance of all the capacitance, all the discs is same. Why? Because they are identical discs. This is 1 divided by j omega mc. I2 is divided by V2 divided by 1 by j omega mc. Now the point here is, what is the voltage of this node 2 with respect to this tower body? What is the voltage between this point and the tower body? Understand? Here V1 is at a voltage, node 1 is at a voltage of V1 with respect to ground. Now node 2 is at a voltage of V1 plus V2. Understand? V1 plus V2. Why? Because this point node 2 is at a voltage of V1 plus V2 with respect to ground. So here you are going to get V1 plus V2 divided by 1 by j omega c. So if you simplify, you are going to get j omega m capital C V3 is equals to j omega m capital C V2 plus j omega c into V1 plus V2. Okay. Again, if we cancel j omega mc, where I am multiplying and dividing with m, so you are going to get V3 is equals to V2 plus V1 plus V2 whole divided by m. Understand? So likewise, you can generalize the formula. You can generalize the formula. The generalized formula is, you did not remember any of the derivation. You can simply write voltage of the ith disk is given by voltage of I minus 1 disk, voltage of the I minus 1 disk plus V1 plus V2 plus V3, so on and so forth, Vi minus 1 divided by M. You will directly get the voltage of any disk by using this generalized formula. You need not remember any of this derivation. Voltage of the ith disk is given by voltage of the I minus 1 disk plus all voltages up to I minus 1 disk divided by M. Okay. Simply you remember this formula, then it will be very helpful to solve the problems. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if capital V is the, let us assume two points I want to convey. Let the string contain, let the string contain n number of disks. The total disks in the string is, say, let us call n. Next, then voltage of the conductor, that means the voltage of this conductor with respect to ground, that means voltage of the phase to neutral voltage of the conductor or voltage of the conductor is given by the sum of all these voltages, that is V1 plus V2 plus V3 dash 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 plus Vn. Remember this one. So voltage of the conductor with respect to ground is given by V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus so on and so forth till Vn. So if our string contains n disks, then voltage of the conductor with respect to ground is given by sum of the voltage across all individual disks. Okay. Next, let us take this simple example and try to solve the voltage distribution across the string of insulators. Okay. So here, what is the transmission line voltage? 66 kV. Now, what is the voltage of each conductor? It is phase to neutral voltage, that will become 66 kV by root 3. How much this value? 39 point something will come. 39 point. Anyone? 66 by root 3.
38.105.
10 kV. Okay. Now, how many disks are there in the string? 4. So 38.10 will be equal to small v1 plus small v2 plus small v3 plus small v4. This all individual voltages we have to calculate. How to calculate? Very simple. We know what is the formula for v2. V2 is equals to v1 plus v1 divided by m. So this will become v1 plus v1 divided by m value is given as 5. It will become 1.2 v1. 1.2 v1. Similarly, v3 will become, if you apply this generalized formula, what you are going to get? V3 is equals to v2 plus v1 plus v2 whole divided by m. Already we know v2 value in terms of v1, that is 1.2 v1. I am writing v2 as 1.2 v1 plus v1 plus 1.2 v1 whole divided by 5. This will become, if you simplify, this value will become how much? 1.64 v1. 1.64 v1. Okay. Similarly, the last disk v4 is equals to v3 plus v1 plus v2 plus v3 whole divided by m So already we know what is V3 in terms of V1, 1.64 V1 plus, if you do this one, you're going to get V1 plus 1.2 V1 plus 1.64 V1 divided by 5. So this entire value will become 2.408 V1. 2.408 V1. Okay, so we know all four values and what is their sum. So if you substitute in this, let us call this equation one, you are going to get 38.10 kV is equals to V1 plus 1.2 V1 plus 1.64 V1 plus 2.408 V1. From this, if you solve this one, you are going to get your V1 value as how much? Your V1 value will become 6.09 kV. 6.09 kV. And similarly, your V2 value will become 1.2 into 6.09. How much will be this value? This value will be 7.31 kV. And this value will become 1.64 into 6.09. Roughly it will become 10 kV, and the final value will become 2.408 into this one. It's going to become 14.6 kV roughly. So these are the voltages. These are the voltages. This is the voltage across second disk, third disk, and the disk connected to conductor, and this is the first disk. This is the first disk. Okay, so if you draw this transmission line, suppose these are the four towers. This is the conductor. Okay, now what we have observed, the voltage, okay, the voltage between this conductor is how much? It is 6.09 kV. The voltage between this is 7.32, and here it is 10 kV, and here it is 10 kV, and the last it is 14 point something, 14.6, 7.3, 14.6 and 7.31 kV. Okay, so what you can observe is that the voltage is not equally distributed across each disk. Even though all the disks are identical, you can observe here the disks are same disks, identical disks. All of them are having same breakdown voltage, same properties, but however we can observe that the voltage across the disks is non-uniformly distributed, unequally distributed. The voltage across the disk connected to the cross arm, the voltage of the disk connected to cross arm is least, but as we move towards cross arm, towards the conductor, the voltage of the disk is increasing. So the disk that is connected to the conductor, next to the conductor, is having maximum voltage. That means since the voltage across this is maximum, it is under maximum electrical stress, and the voltage across the disk connected to the cross arm is minimum, so it is under minimum stress. So when such is the distribution, however, when you design the insulator, which voltage we have to consider? We have to consider the maximum voltage. We don't know which insulator is going to be placed where. So every voltage, for operating voltage of every disk, we have to consider how much? 14.6 kV. and if suppose if I keep a factor of safety of 4, so I have to design insulator for almost roughly around 60 kV for the application. So a disk designed for 60 kV, here it is not even used to 1/10 of its capacity, 1/10 of its capacity. So this uneven distribution, this non-uniform distribution of voltage in the string of insulator is undesirable. Why? Because it will lead to more insulation cost and underutilization of the insulating material. Understand? Underutilization of the insulating material. Okay. So now I define one parameter called string efficiency. So string efficiency is a parameter that measures the utilization of material in the string. That means by how much percentage you are utilizing the material in the particular string. So it is given by percentage string efficiency is given by voltage of the conductor. It is given by voltage of conductor divided by total number of discs is n, total number of discs in the string into voltage across the disc, connected to conductor. This is the string efficiency into 100. So string efficiency is given by voltage of the conductor divided by the total number of conductors, total number of discs present in the insulator string into voltage across the disc which is connected to the conductor. In the previous example, if we calculate what is the voltage of conductor, voltage of conductor is 38.10 kV. Phase to neutral voltage of conductor is 38.10 kV. How many discs are there? There are 4 discs. There are 4 discs in the insulator string. What is the voltage across the disc connected to the conductor? So this is the disc. This is the disc that is connected to the conductor. So whose voltage is 14.6 kV. So if you calculate this string efficiency, in this case you are going to get 38.10 kV divided by 4 into 14.36 into 100. This is your string efficiency. Can someone calculate and tell me the value?
$66.33.
Yeah, 66.33. So it is value, just a minute, battery is being connected. So 66.3 is the, or 66% is the answer. So what is the meaning of this one? So only 66% of the insulation is utilized in the above context. Okay. Next is the conclusions which we have discussed. Read one by one. Let some student read one after one other.
The voltage across the disc next to conductor is under maximum electrical stress.
and electrical stress across the disk gradually decreases once we move from conductor to cross arm.
I'm sorry. Okay, the voltage across the disk next to the conductor is having maximum voltage and maximum electrical stress. But as we gradually move from conductor to the cross arm, the voltage decreases and electrical stress also decreases. Second point, the uneven or the non-uniform distribution of voltage is undesirable and it leads to underutilization of insulating material and more cost. Okay, the main reason for this uneven distribution of voltage is the leakage currents flowing from the pin junction to the tower. Suppose if there were no leakage currents, then same current would have flowed through all the insulator discs. Since they are identical discs, the impedance drop across them would be same and the voltage distribution would have been uniform. Okay, the next point which I want to convey, in HVDC lines, the capacitive reactance, the leakage currents are zero. Why? Because IC1 IC1 is given by what? V1 divided by j omega c. So omega is equals to 2 pi f. What is the frequency for DC? 0. So 1 by IC1 value will become V1 divided by j omega 0, sorry, j0, which is infinity. Sorry. 1 by j omega c. I'm sorry. I'm just corrected. So here this IC1 is given by j omega c into V1. Omega equals to 2 pi f. So if you substitute frequency equals to 0 for DC lines, so your leakage currents will become how much? 0. Since there are no capacitive leakage currents in HVDC lines, so there are no non-uniform voltages because the voltage across the each disk will be same. So when the voltage across each disk is same, the string efficiency will be 100%. String efficiency will be 100%. Okay. Suppose the voltage of the line is 40 kV. There are 4 disks. If the voltage across each disk will become how much? 10 kV. If you calculate string efficiency, 40 divided by 4 into 10 into 100, this will become how much? This will become 100%. 100% will be string efficiency in the HVDC lines. Why? There are no capacitive leakage currents in the HVDC lines. Okay. So next, the last topic of today's discussion is methods to increase string efficiency. Methods to increase string efficiency. So if we increase the M value, then we can achieve more string efficiency. Okay. So we have done one problem in this lecture with M is equals to 5. If you do the same problem with M is equals to 8, you will get a string efficiency in the range of 85 to 90%. 85 to 90%. You can do it as a practice or a homework. You do the same example with M value equal to 8. You can observe that your string efficiency will improve from 66% to approximately 85 to 90%. Okay. So how to increase M value? M value can be increased. What is M value? Basically, M is equals to capacitance of the disk divided by capacitance of the CPT. So you can increase the M value either by increasing CD or by decreasing CPT. Okay. So since most of the disks are identical, there is no provision to increase CD, but however we can decrease CPT. CPT value, CPT is given by what? A epsilon naught divided by D. A epsilon naught divided by D, where D is the distance between the pin junction and the this one. Okay, so pin junction and this one. So if we use a longer cross arm, this D value can be increased. Again, I am writing for your convenience. So this is the cross arm, this is the tower body, let us say. So this distance is what? D. So if I use a longer cross arm, this D value will increase. So once D value increases, CPT decreases. Once D value increases, CPT value decreases. Once CPT value decreases, M value will increase. So one of the method is to, if we increase the length of cross arm, we can increase the M value. Okay, using longer cross arms, so that horizontal distance from the line support to the insulator disc unit increases. With this we can achieve M value. Using insulator discs with more cross-sectional area in the pin junction. Suppose if you increase the cross-sectional area also, where the area of cross-section of the pin junction increases, then also you can increase M value. But however, we cannot increase the size of cross arm beyond a limit. Why? Because if you keep on increasing the cross arm length, the size and the cost of tower will increase. The size, cost and weight of the tower will increase. So we cannot increase M value beyond 10 practically. The maximum value for M which is possible is 10 value. This is one method where we can increase the string efficiency. Second method is grading of insulators. Grading of insulators. So in this method, what is the basic concept is, instead of using identical discs with the same capacitance value, we will use different capacitances, discs with different capacitances. Okay. Suppose so this is the insulator string, let us call 3 insulator string. Here the basic concept is, I want to make the voltage drop across each of this disc same, then I will achieve 100% string efficiency. I want to make the voltage drop across each disc same. Let the impedance of first disc is Z1, Z2 and Z3. And we know that because of capacitive leakage currents, the currents flowing will be I1, I2, I3. I am not drawing leakage currents, you already know. These are IC1, IC2. Okay. Now my basic concept is that I want to make the voltage across each disc same. That means what I want to achieve, V1 is equals to V2 is equals to V3 I want to achieve. So that string efficiency is 100%. So basically what is V1 and V1? It is the current flowing through the first disc, that is I1 into Z1. The second thing is I2 into Z2. I3 into Z3. Sir, why these Z values are different? Now, gentlemen, we are not using identical discs. We are using discs with different capacitances. Let us call the capacitance of each disc is, this is C1, this is C2, this is C3. This is C. This is C. C is the capacitance between the pin junction and the tower, the same notation. But whereas these capacitances have changed, that is C1, C2 and C3. Now, I1 into Z1 value is what? 1 by j omega C1, I2 into 1 by j omega C2, I3 into 1 by j omega C3. I want to make this equal. Okay. However, I know what is the relationship. I1 is less than I2 is less than I3 because of the leakage currents. Okay, I1. Okay. I have done Ulta, right? This notation should be reverse. Even in the previous case. This current is I1, no? This current is I2. This current is I3. Okay. So we know that the current through the insulator disc that is connected to cross arm is the least. The current through the disc connected to the conductor is the highest. So from this, what should be valid to make this product equal? What we should have 1 by j omega C1 should be greater than 1 by j omega C2 should be greater than 1 by j omega C3. Then only their product will become equal. Okay. So which implies C1 is less than C2 less than C3 because C1 is in the denominator part. So if we grade the insulator such that their capacitance are in this sequence, then we can achieve the 100% string efficiency. Okay. So grading of insulator discs means in this method, to make the voltage drop across each disc equal, we choose discs with different capacitances. We choose discs with different capacitors. So here we make the product of capacitive reactance and current flowing through the disc same. So if you make this and if you analyze what we are getting, the capacitance must be graded such that the capacitances must be graded such that the capacitance of the disc connected to cross arm is the least. The capacitance of the disc connected to the conductor is the highest. Okay. C1 less than C2 less than C3 and so on and so forth. So this is called grading of cables. So to calculate this values, there is one shortcut formula. I can derive that, but let us not go into that one. I am directly telling you the formula. So when you adopt the grading of insulators, do you want derivation or shall I directly tell the formula? It is just like in the previous case. You want the formula or derivation?
Formula.
Formula. So capacitance of the ith disk is given by capacitance of I minus 1th disk plus I minus 1 into C. If you do grading according to this sequence, you will get 100% string efficiency, uniform voltage distribution. So where C is the capacitance between pin junction and tower. Capacitance between pin junction and tower, which we already know. So if you use this simple formula, capacitance of the ith disk is given by capacitance of I minus 1 disk plus I minus 1 into C. If you grade according to this one, you are going to get 100% string efficiency. Okay. Next, try to solve this problem. First, someone read the question and let us try to answer the question. Archana, read the question.
In a 66 kV transmission line, grading of insulator is done to achieve 100% string efficiency. String contains 4 discs Capacitance of the disk connected to cross-arm is 2 microfarad. Capacitance between pin junction and tower is 0.5 microfarad. Determine capacitance of the disk connected to the conductor.
That is the question. So it's telling the voltage of transmission is 66 kV and we want to achieve 100% string efficiency. The capacitance of the disk connected to cross arm is 2 microfarad, I know. It's told me. The capacitance between pin junction and tower is 0. microfarad. It is same for all 3 pin junctions. Okay. Now what he's asking, find out the capacitance of the disk connected to the conductor. What is this capacitance is asking. So if this is C1, C2, C3 and C4, is asking the value of C4. How will you calculate C4? I'll give 1 minute, try, very simple question. What is the formula? Capacitance of ith disk is given by capacitance of I minus 1 plus I minus 1 into C. We want C4. Anyone? See, you want C4. For C4, you need C3 plus 3 into C. C3, you need C2 plus 2 into C. To calculate C2, what is the formula? C1 plus 1 into C. So here you know what is C1 value 2 microfarad and C value is 0.5 microfarad. So this will give you 2.5 microfarad. So you know C2 now, 2.5 plus 2 into 0.5, this value is 3.5 microfarad. Now you know C3, 3.5 plus 3 into 0.5, 5 microfarad. Understand? So 5 microfarad is the answer. Okay. So here to calculate C4, you must know C3. To calculate C3, you must know C2. Okay, for C2, C2 means C2, I is 2. I minus 1 means C1. I minus 1, 2 minus 1 into 1 into C. So if I apply that formula, I'm going to get the any value of the capacitance. Understood? Any doubt?
Yes, sir.
So here what I want to convey is that grading is not practically done. Grading is not practically done. Why? Because industry always prefers identical things. Industry always prefers identical things. Here mathematically you can calculate, I want a capacitance of 3.5, 2.7, whatever way you can calculate on board by your mathematical analysis. But in market, you may not get that disk with that much of capacitance. Market always manufactures some specific ratings. Suppose if you take your switch in your house, the switch or MCB in your house, the minimum MCB rating is 6 ampere. Next rating you will get is 10. Next 15. Next to 20, 25, 32 like that. Okay. Somebody goes and asks, I want 17 ampere switch, you will not get it. Somebody goes and asks, I want 12.5 amperes, which you will not get it. So there are two practical problems. First thing is availability of the material is a problem, because industry always manufactures some standard rating equipment. Okay. Second thing is that even though if we request the manufacturer to make special type of discs for us, how many spares you will maintain? You have to maintain 4 different spares here. I don't know whether my C1 will fail, C2 will fail, C3 will fail, or C4 will fail. I have to buy all the 4 and keep in my storeroom. This may fail tomorrow, or this may fail after 20 years. But whatever the money I have spent on, say, it is a dead capital. Okay. Suppose had I used the identical discs, instead of buying 4 spares, I will buy 1 spare and keep it with me. Okay. So whenever this spare material is consumed, then I will order new spare. With this, I am going to save a lot of cost. Industry, see, there are 5 machines out there. Industry always tries to procure 5 identical machines, same rating machines. Why? If you get the same rating machines from the same manufacturer, he will give more warranty, more support, and moreover, the set of tools to handle 5 machines will be same. One toolbox, if you purchase, that is good enough. Suppose if you have 5 different rating machines with 5 bolts, 5 Allen keys, 5 screw types, then you have to buy more spares, you have to buy more toolbox, you have to train your person for 5 different machines. Understand? So because of the economic problems and because of practical problems, industry never prefers non-identical things. Industry always prefers identical things. So grading of insulators is not practically done. Okay. So the next and the most effective method to improve string efficiency is called guard ring method or grading ring method. Okay. In this method, what we do, we connect a grading ring. We connect a grading ring or guard ring to the conductor. Here the philosophy of this method is that, okay. Here, just like a horn, you connect a grading ring directly to the conductor. You connect a ring, metallic link. So what happens now? Between this metallic link and this pin junction, a counter capacitance is formed. Any 2 conducting surfaces separated by voltage, capacitance is formed. A counter capacitance is formed. Okay. I designed this ring, that means I bend this ring such that whatever current that is flowing from here, that is, let me call IC1 dash, that is IC1, both will cancel each other. Here let us call this current as IC2 dash. This is IC2, this is IC3, and this is IC3 dash. If I design this ring such that the capacitive current flowing from this guard ring to the pin junction exactly is equal to the capacitive leakage current flowing from pin junction to the tower. Suppose if I make my IC1 dash equal to IC1, IC2 dash equal to IC2, IC3 dash equal to IC3, then these currents will cancel each other. So the same current will flow through all identical discs. Which are having same impedance. So voltage drop will be uniform. I'll get maximum. I'll get 100% string efficiency. Okay. So just by connecting a metallic link and bending it in such a way that the capacitive leakage currents are cancelled, then you are going to get 100% string efficiency. This is the most practical applicable method. Even though we need not grade, I mean, we did not connect the ring so that it covers all the insulators. Only if few 1, 2, 3 are connected also, you will get a string efficiency in the range of 95%. So one example here is, in one of the images we have a guard ring. So see here you are having a guard ring. This is a grading ring. Okay. So it will nullify the capacitive effect for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is good enough. Even if you nullify the initial 3 or 4, 5, you are going to achieve higher string efficiency. So this is the advantage of this one. So 3 techniques is selection of higher M value by increasing the length of cross arm, grading of discs, which practically is not feasible. Another method is the static shielding. This is called static shielding method or guard ring or grading ring method. Okay. In this method, a guard or grading ring, which usually takes the form of a large metal ring surrounding the bottom unit and electrically connected to the metalwork at the bottom of the unit and therefore to the line conductor, is simple language is simply telling that a metallic link is connected to the conductor. In this method, the charging current from pin to tower are exactly cancelled by the connecting guard ring. The guard ring should be designed such that the charging current will cancel exactly in a particular section. So if you design the guard ring such that the capacitive leakage currents are cancel each other, then you are going to achieve the 100% string efficiency. Okay. So this is about the insulators. So even for this grading ring capacitance also there is a formula. I don't think so that much deep they will ask. So if you want formula, I will simply tell. That means this we already know this capacitance is C. Suppose if I call this capacitances as C1 dash, C2 dash, C3 dash, like that, the counter capacitances. So if you want to calculate the capacitance Cn dash, generalized formula, Cn dash is given by Cn dash is given by Ci dash, let us call generalized formula. Ci dash is given by I divided by n minus I into C. So if you want C1 dash, you can calculate in this way. So if we want C1 dash will become, where I value is 1 divided by n is the total number of discs in the string. Here it is 4 minus 1 into small c, that is C1 dash will become 1 by 3 C. Understand? Here n is the total number of discs 4. C is the again this value, the capacitance between pin junction and the tower. Similarly, C2 dash will become how much? If I substitute the formula, 2 divided by 4 minus 2 into C. So this will become 1C. Similarly, C3 dash will become 3 divided by 4 minus 3 into C, that is 3C. So if you use this generalized formula, Ci dash is given by I divided by n minus I into C. Please be careful, you have to count from the cross arm to the conductor. That is one will be near to the cross arm, and as you move gradually the count will increase. So this is the formula that you can use to calculate this counter capacitance to nullify the capacitive leakage currents. Understood? Any doubt?
No doubt, sir.
Okay. So now let us solve this question. Read and tell the answer. The voltage across various disks of string of suspension insulators having identical disks is different. Why the voltage across the disks is different? What is the reason?
Series capacitance, series and constant capacitance.
Shunt capacitance to the ground. Shunt capacitance to the ground. See, every disk is this, no? These are series capacitances. Okay. Series, all are connected in series. Okay. Now this capacitances will become shunt capacitance between the pin junction and the ground. Okay. So shunt capacitance is to the ground. Next. Whenever conductors are dead-ended, there is a change there is a change in direction of transmission line. The insulator types that are used are
Strain type
strain type insulators. Very good. This question is very tough. 6 marks question. It will not be asked. No problem. Next. Consider the following statements. In case of suspension type insulator, the string efficiency can be improved by come on, man.
Option A, sir.
Option
A.
A.
1, 2,
Yes.
3.
1, 2, 3. Good. So we can increase the string efficiency by using longer cross arms, by gardering, or by grading the insulator discs. Okay. By reducing the cross arm, we are going to decrease the string efficiency. So, which is the right option? 1, 2, 3 is the right option. Next, read the next question. Which is the right option? Same thing is asking. The existence of stray capacitance between the metallic pin junction and the tower body. Okay, the word, language, everything will change, but you have to find the crux, isn't it? So, it is not unequal self-capacitances. It is not non-uniform distance of separation. The distance of units from tower body will be constant. Okay, so the existence of stray capacitance between metallic pin junction and the tower, that is the main reason for the non-uniform voltage distribution in the string of insulators. Why? Because there are capacitive leakage currents. Because of this capacitive leakage currents only, the voltage distribution is non-uniform. The reason for capacitive leakage currents is the existence of shunt or stray capacitance between metallic pin junction and the tower body. Next, match the following. Inductance of transmission line. It depends upon what? Conductor configuration and tower configuration. Okay, D matches with the 4. Number of suspension insulator discs depends upon the voltage. Next, corona discharge Corona discharge depends upon the voltage and conductor configuration. Permissible sag of transmission line conductor for a given tower depends upon the voltage and tower footing resistance. Voltage and tower footing resistance. So which is the right option? So A is matching with B. Sorry, A is matching with 1. Let us call them 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And B is matching with 1. Sorry, A is matching with 2. C is matching with 3. Excuse me. D is matching with 4.
There is no option.
Number of suspension insulator discs depends upon only voltage only. No other option. Excuse me. So I think the options are wrong. These are the options. Again, the same question. So last question for today's lecture. In a 3-unit insulator string, the voltage across the lowest unit is 17.5 kV. String efficiency is 84.28%. Voltage across the string is. So string efficiency has given it as 84.28%, which is given by voltage of conductor divided by 3 insulators into the voltage across the disc near to the conductor is this one. So from this he's asking this value. So you're going to get 0.8428 into 3 into 17.5 kV is the voltage of the conductor. Voltage of conductor is nothing but voltage of the string. So what is this value? What is the answer? So 44.25 kV is the right answer. The voltage across the string equal to voltage of the conductor. It is 44.25 kV. So gentlemen, with this insulator system,